But that's the only way that I know how to do it. Like I don't have the kind of personality that could be a Kai Cenat or like a David Dobrik or a Casey Neistat. So like,
and that's what this is. And I haven't seen that anywhere. I've seen a ton of photos of them. I have not seen anyone highlight that because that's very unique and it's not to the originals. 85% of podcasts die before episode 20 or something.
That's not surprising at all. All right, welcome to the first guest episode of the Shoes Off podcast.
Yo, real quick, if you guys want a chance to win this pair of Beat Studio Pros to listen to the APTHCRY Shoes Off podcast, make sure to leave a comment down below and subscribe to our podcast on all of the podcast platforms and on YouTube. We'll be picking one random winner very soon. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.
I'm your host, Seth. This is your other host, Osman. And this is our first guest, Charley. Winona Kicks. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This is great, man. I really appreciate it. You've got your own podcast.
Yes, and you guys are a sponsor, one of our sponsors. So that's kind of why I'm here. It's a perfect mix. So,
with the other sneaker Seth.
Yes, same old Seth. So yeah,
Yes.
first off, we appreciate you guys being a sponsor.
Of course.
It's all we rock is APTHCRY. So we have fun with the ad reads and we kind of make jokes about them in the episode and talk about it. So it's like, it's kind of a perfect mix. I mean, creator started brand to us other creators. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thank you for making amazing content.
Well, thank you.
Well, this episode is also brought to you by the sponsor of this podcast, APTHCRY. We are the co-founders of APTHCRY, but we also are paying for the microphones. So it is technically sponsored.
There you go.
In a lot of ways. So first off, I just want to jump right in. Talk about you. Talk about how you came into this whole industry of sneakers and influencing and all the things that you do. So I'd love to just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into things.
Yeah, so I grew up in Minnesota, born and raised. Not a lot of sneaker culture out there. Not like Philly or Atlanta or LA or New York. A lot of winter boots. I mean, it's just kind of the reality of it. So I always kind of grew up watching sneaker YouTube, like Harrison Neville. Of course, watched his unboxings and stuff like that. And
he's a go to unboxings for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And like Untied Hawaii and like mystery boxes and stuff like that. And just super surface level sneakers. And then just never really had the money to buy sneakers growing up. So ended up going to college freshman year, and in high school and stuff, I was kind of reselling random stuff like Apple Watches or PlayStations or golf clubs. So I was doing that in college, just trying to make a quick buck. And I tried sneakers, bought a pair of Air Forces, made like $40 in a couple hours. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. So use that as a method to build my own collection, like a lot of people do getting into this space, because it's hard to just take from your regular income and just start buying a bunch of shoes for your collection.
Totally.
So that was kind of the method on building it, and grew that to reselling like 100 pairs a month within 4 or 5 months. And it was a lot of just trial and error buying stuff I didn't really know. None of it was like hype shoes or anything like that. And this was 2019. And so it was like buying Converses and then cleaning them up or icing the soles or like restoring them. And so it's like building value into the shoes to flip them.
Right. That makes sense.
So that was kind of the method there. And then in the midst of that, I made an Instagram account called Charley Sneakers, where I would post the shoes for sale to like my high school friends. And I had like 20 or 30 followers.
That's awesome.
And I had some random person comment, like, how do you ship the shoes? And when you're like reselling, you figure out shipping, like 14 by 10 by 6 box, 4 pounds. Like, so I made like a video on it and got some engagement on it, got another comment, replied to that, and then just kind of kept going with it. And then eventually made a TikTok. I was like a year late to it, just because I was like, I'm late adapter. Like, but it made the TikTok and kind of grew it pretty quick because it was early TikTok and there wasn't a lot of sneaker people on there. There was like Young Rice, there was Brian Ware, there was Sneakerverse, who doesn't do content anymore, Chance Dubnik, and then Alex Gigamis. So there was a few that were doing it, and then I basically did the reseller side of it. So I did like a series where day in the life of a reseller, so like packages was coming in to my like really bad sophomore like gringy house that I was flipping these out of and unboxing it, showing like my ice box that I had set up, and then like going to the post office, and that was a series, and then like how to spot fakes, and then like I think it was like a hold or sell series where I'm like, is this gonna go up in value? Because at the time it was like every sneaker went up in value.
Right.
Like, it was just like, oh, like how much are they gonna go up? And like sneaker invest that guy, and like it was like a whole it was like a whole business model was just holding sneakers, which that does not exist anymore currently. Yeah. But so I started the TikTok, grew that to 20 or 30K, and then I actually got a job offer doing content for a power sports company in Minnesota. So they sell ATVs, pontoons, jet skis, the whole works, because of like my TikTok presence, which was very small at the time, but it was like, oh, you kind of know how to do this. And it was a family friend and stuff. So
sweet.
Within a year, I grew that account to 100K on TikTok. Wow. And then my own stuff was growing and grew to a couple 100,000 on my own stuff. And so then it was like, all right, I'm going to stop the reselling, do content full time while I'm in college. So I was kind of like a balancing act. So that summer was very busy, and then balancing that with school. Just continued plugging away at that, and then COVID hit and stuck inside. I got COVID like the first.
Oh geez.
Like right away. So it was like first. It was a bummer, but it was like within the first 3 months. Then it was like, okay, like I'm good to go for like I got immunity for a while, so it's like now we can just kind of hang out, like do whatever. And so it's just really grinding content. And then I started getting into cameras and learning about that and trying to make higher quality short form content, which nobody was really doing at the time. And it just kind of progressed. I started going to some sneaker cons. I cold DM them. Cold DMs are cool, man.
Yeah, that's great.
I saw a bunch of other people going to them, and I just sent them a DM. I was like, hey, like, these guys are doing some pretty cool stuff. Like, I'd love to be involved. And they're like, yeah, sure, come to an event. And they loved it. And then I went to a bunch of them. And sick. So that started that, and then I met John Carlo, Blazendary at a sneaker con, and then that led to that, and there's been brand deals from that. So cold DMs are a powerful thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so then it just came from that and just kept growing the socials. And my buddy Seth, same old Seth, we started a podcast over 2 years ago. We're 100 episodes deep, the Beyond Kicks podcast, and at the time I think I was at like, we looked back at this at the end of last year. I think I was at like 40K on Instagram, and he was at like 5K on Instagram when we started it. And we met at SneakerCon Atlanta once.
That's wild.
And we just hit it off, and we're like, oh, let's do a podcast. Like, that's sick. And it was kind of like, the podcast is kind of a long play. So it's like, who do I see like still loving and doing content like multiple years down the line? And he was like the only person that like we hit it off and it worked. So we started the podcast. That's been going great. We just had Beema Williams on last night, so we're opening guests up. You're going to be on there.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. So, I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's just been a content journey now, and now I'm the creative director for Blazendary as well, so I'm doing all of their content while we're growing the Whatnot business, and yeah, it's a wild ride. It's been fun.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's the story.
Sweet, man. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess what would you say is the next step for you? Like, what do you? So obviously you've got the podcast. Yep. You're working with Blazendary. Like, what's that next? Like, what's that next 1 year looking like? Next 5 years looking like? Where would you like to be?
It's tricky. I don't know. I mean, I just got married less than 2 years ago. Thank you. So that's like, I'm a big family guy. Like, I'd love to be with my wife right now. Like, I just that's the best. So it's like. So she's got a really good job in Minnesota, so I don't think we're moving anytime soon. She's a financial advisor, and yeah, she's the smart one. So yeah, she's got the very good corporate job. And so I don't know. I mean, it's hard because it's like I'm sure you felt this, where it's like the creator thing. It's like there's like, I know that there's a time window with it, but it's like we don't really know that yet because it's still so new. Like there's a lot of people that get viral really quick that die off because they just had a huge spike, and then there's a lot of people like me and yourself that have played the long game, and it's constant, and it's value providing, that we don't really know the lifespan of it. So I'm just keep kicking it at that, keep improving the best I can. And I mean, in terms of Blazendary and my job, I really have a big vision we do as a company of growing it into a really large company. So yeah, I think just kind of keep plugging away at what's working and never not trying new stuff though too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your way of staying motivated with it? Do you have like any tips or tricks for content creators who are getting into it but are having that trouble? Like maybe they blew up and maybe they're like, okay, sweet, I have some videos that hit millions of views, but now I don't know what to do next.
That's a good question. For me, I'll look at it from the shorts perspective, short form. It's easy to get buried in the numbers big time. I mean, I had a video of me lacing up a pair of Way of Wade shoes, get 40 million views on TikTok.
That's crazy.
And then you fall. It was nuts. And they were like, they had the BOA lacing system. So it was like 10-second video. And so I got sucked into that a little bit. And then I recreate that 3-4 times. And then it's like you can't just go off the virality. So my thing is like always staying true to the roots, where it's like either you're learning something, you're informing somebody about it. Like there's some sort of value prop when you're watching the video, because whether it's an entertainment value prop or pure knowledge or information. And if I don't watch it myself, then it's not doing good. So I think just always taking a step back and like, why are you making this video? Are you making it to build it into a series? Are you making it to connect with brands? Are you making it to just purely go viral and make money, which a lot of people want to do? But it's like, if you think of it from the outside perspective of the consumer of it, the money's going to come, all that. So it's like always taking a step back is probably my best advice on that one.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, so what would you say you lean more into? Obviously, a lot of what we talked about is some short form stuff, except outside of the podcast. But do you dabble in long form? Like, what's your?
It's a big goal for this year.
That's awesome.
Yep, it's a big goal. I have all the gear. I'm a big gear head, so I've gone through probably 15 different lens combinations, and
we're actually using your lens right now to film the podcast.
There you go. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm big into that, which I kind of get sucked into sometimes because I can get too down the rabbit hole of it and more focused on that rather than the actual content when they're tools in the end of the day. But it's kind of a side hobby. I think for me, long form is a big goal, and just building a deeper connection with the audience that I have is a goal. And then just basically expanding on my current content, so reviews, wear tests, whether that's the world's most comfortable slide or just random series, coming up with more of those that work that I actually like doing. So
that's awesome.
What do you think the benefit of doing or moving into long form or adding it to your kind of?
It's a lot easier to monetize. It's a lot more defined. In terms of straight ad dollars, you can actually put ads in a 10-minute video. In a minute video, it's very hard. They're still building that out. So that's different. Brand deals last year was the first year where there was a significant amount of brands focusing on short form, which was a good sign for me.
Right, that's awesome. That's
but
awesome.
Yeah, I think that long form is basically if people actually like you and want to listen to what you say, then you can just build a deeper connection. So you look at like Joe Rogan, who has a 2 to 3 hour episode every week. It's like he has an audience that listens to every second of it, and you feel like you know the person. So when you watch one of your reviews, it's like you really get to know your interests, what like your take is on a different midsole or whatever the case is. And it's hard to put that into a short form video, but I think that for consuming it, there's a lot of people that just consume short form. So
totally. Yeah, and I agree. It's interesting. I've always wondered what the next iteration is, because obviously you've got super long form with like podcasts and TV shows and movies, and then you've got short form, which has just been huge the last almost 10 years now, which just continues to blow up, and I don't think is going anywhere. I mean, it started with Vine with 6-second videos, and then now we're getting
super
3-minute TikToks. Yeah. But then there's a sort of middle ground with YouTube where it's anywhere between a 5 to a hour-long video, and it's interesting to see. I don't know where it's going to go. Is YouTube going to continue to stay? Is that sweet spot still going to be, that 20-minute video, or is it going to lean more towards a short form, or is it going to lean into like Mr. Beast, what he's doing, where it's leaning more into like the whole Amazon show? Do you have any thoughts on where content is going to go? Like what medium might continue to be the most popular, or what it changes into?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, Mr. Beast kind of leads the landscape and working with big brands like Amazon Video, and I know it was interesting because he pitched it to a lot of brands, and they were the only ones that bought it. And I listened to a podcast with him talking, like he talked to Netflix and talked to Hulu, and they were just like, we don't really see this converting, and it's like, it converts. I think each form is gonna be more in itself. So what I mean by that is like a YouTube video long form is not gonna be misconstrued as a 4-minute video. Right. Because that could be a short form video and it could be vertical. Right. I think for now, vertical's king. I think horizontal video, I watch everything on my TV. I don't watch any horizontal on my phone. Where I used to, like on my iPod, like middle school, watching like YouTube and stuff. But I think that I only watch long form on TV. And so I think the TV format is 15 to 30 minutes for a video. Yeah. And I think if you make it interesting, whether that's like a camping vlog or a bunch of like top 10 sneaker New Balances of the year, whatever the case is, I think that it's going to be more defined in itself. And then short form, I think, is going to stay chopped up very quick, no attention span like that, which hard to build an audience with that. But I think that they're just going to kind of keep building off each other. I don't know if there is another form like like Vine was like 5-second videos, like that's as short as you really can go. True. Unless it's like one of those dumb like repeating videos there. But and then long form, it's like movies. Like I don't.
What about live? Like live streaming?
I actually didn't think about
live. Live streaming, live selling.
Yeah. Well, I'm bullish on that, obviously, but I think that that's a big play. I mean, the way that I see live selling is, it's huge in China, and QVC, we were talking about this earlier, like the format's there to be able to sell up. Like when you list a pair of, let's say, Jordan 11s on eBay, you got to wait 3 to 7 days for the auction to be done. Or just buy it now and hope the one buyer finds it. Where on Whatnot or Network or any of these live selling platforms, which I think it's just going to be a built-in feature to social platforms, which it already kind of is into TikTok, but where you can sell anything, whether it's a couch or a pair of shoes or a vintage t-shirt or a marker in 2 seconds. That's very appealing. Yeah, absolutely. So I think the what's going to happen is all these people that, like, you go into one of my big partners is Champ Sports. The mall market is tough. Like it's tough to be in retail. So if you can have, let's say they have Bryce Harper on a live stream for 2 hours and it's just him holding his cleat up and talking about it and being super raw and authentic, they could sell 10,000 units easily. Mean, like it's a method where it's like Kim Kardashian's going to be selling her Skims on Instagram Live.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And do 10 million. Like she's gonna. That's what we see it as.
Right. That makes
sense.
So
it hasn't happened yet, but that's where it's like the amount of volume you can move in such a short amount of time, where people are already on the platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Like, live's going to be huge. Yeah, that makes sense.
Why do you think like Twitch and like those streaming apps haven't incorporated sales yet?
Good question.
Because they're like those guys are getting 100K.
I bet they will.
Viewers.
Yeah, I mean,
like imagine the conversions there.
Yeah, Jinxie, Kai Cenat, I mean, all those guys, like the amount of pull they have and the amount of popularity they have is huge. I mean, I'm sure it's a matter of time before you can, like when Kai Cenat drops his Air Max 1 Polys. Like, I'm sure there's going to be a buy it now feature, like on the sneakers app where they do the live shows and then you can buy it. I bet there's going to be something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's too much money involved.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I was thinking about this, sort of staying in this vein. I get this question a lot, and I'm sure you get this all the time too, like from people who want to start getting into social media. And I don't want to frame it the same way that everyone frames it. I want to ask you, if you were to do it all again, like say everything just gets wiped off the board, right? You're starting from zero. But you still want to get to where you are now or even, further. What do you do in 2025 for yourself to get back to where you were?
That's a good question, because I'm one of the, not to be like cocky about it or anything, but I'm one of the unique content creators in the sneaker space that's branched off into different markets and done it semi-successfully with the Power Lodge. Blazonary, we just did 30 million views last month.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
From basically having a dormant profile for 2 years. So it's I kind of have a neat like a knack for it. And I don't know. I think if I had to go back and do it again, I would do it very similar to some of the creator-led brands, like Minted New York.
Right.
You know Marcus? He is super raw and authentic. Strawberry Milk Mob, she has her bikini brand where it's very raw and authentic, but it's building a brand. So I would start over, build a brand alongside the content.
That's awesome.
Similar to what you're doing, and like just go inside the struggles of it. And I think I'm very hesitant on iPhone footage for my own stuff, but I wish I could go back and slow down on how like high quality I went, because sometimes it helps, sometimes it hurts. I think that would be the route I would go, would be very raw, authentic, stay true to my roots, where it's like 100% honesty always wins type of deal. So
I love that. That's awesome.
Let me flip it on you. What would you do? Because you're long form mainly. So it's like, how would you just rinse and repeat like the method? I mean, it's proven.
Yeah, I mean,
or would you change anything?
I don't know. So my whole thing initially when I started was because I had been doing like stupid videos in like 2005, and then when YouTube started in like 2005, 2006, I did some like Marquez Brownlee style, and they were awful. But review like tech.
Well, you go watch his old ones too.
Yeah, they were worse than that. But like I was really trying to focus on, because I knew reviews and I really enjoyed using things and like giving my thoughts on them. So like it was a lot of trying to give thoughts on things that people were already looking for, like that searchability of it. And that was always sort of my thought going into everything that I did in terms of social media. And I think that still works. I just don't know if maybe the category, like I probably wouldn't, as much as I love sneakers and as important as it is to my life, if I was starting fresh and my goal was to blow up in social media, I think I would try and pick a category that maybe has more searchability, like maybe cars, which I also like, or tech, which I've started a channel on tech, and then just kind of still do stuff. I still love sneakers. I'd still wear sneakers. I'd still, that sort of stuff. But I think if I was purely trying to do social media, I would pick an area that I know is going to be around for a long time, and then just try and review or make content about the stuff that's hot. And then just, kind of go from there, making short form that supports the long form. And then that's the only way that I know how to do it. Like I don't have the kind of personality that could be a Kai Cenat or like a David Dobrik or a Casey Neistat. So like, as wild and as I guess hyper as I am outside of the internet, on the internet, I get a little bit more like, oh, okay, we're doing this. So like, I couldn't force myself to do that, on camera. So I don't think I could ever have a channel that is solely based on just my personality, which I think works for a lot of these huge creators because people like them for who they are. Which I'm not saying that people don't like us for who we are, but I think it's their channels are based on what's Logan Paul going to do next, what's Kai going to do, or David Dobrik or whoever.
100%. Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I've thought about this a lot, and Seth, who I do the podcast with, other Seth, he talks about it too, where when you kind of put yourself out there and it kind of works, like it has for us in the sneaker space, like. We're always going to be sneaker guys.
Right, exactly.
Unless we go off the face of the earth, like completely look differently 5 years later and start in like the tech niche.
Right.
Like it's always going to be, you were the sneaker guy first. And we're kind of like swing and a miss. Like it's hard to go back on that. Because if you go like MKBHD, like he can go into tech or he can go into F1 tech or cars or phones or VR, or like there's so much more encompassing that where sneakers is sneakers.
Right.
You can kind of dip into the fashion as well. I'm not a huge fashion guy, but it's kind of one dimensional.
Right.
Which is it's an interesting dilemma.
Totally.
It's very easy to stay focused on it and not get off path, but it's very, and it's less competitive than the tech space. There's so many tech creators that are doing such good work, and that's like it's a, you can probably speak to it. It's probably tough to break into without a previous audience.
It can be. What's interesting is that when I started the tech channel, I thought that a lot of people would kind of transfer over, because I thought like everyone who likes, it's honestly like sneakers, when it comes to sneaker YouTube, it's like 90% male.
It's your review style, but a different product.
Exactly. And like when I think of people who like sneakers and just the guys that I know, like they also love tech. Like Osman loves cool cars and tech. Yeah, I'm assuming you love cameras, like cool cars and tech, things like that. So it's like I thought that the audience was going to transfer over, but it didn't. So like what basically happened was I kind of took the same approach that I took with sneakers, and I just reviewed stuff that was popular. And what's interesting is that unlike sneakers, where I can pretty much guarantee a certain number of views because of the people who subscribe, with tech, it's like all over the place. Like I'll put out a video on something and it'll get like 1,000 views, and then I'll put out another video on like something else, which I didn't think of. Like for example, I did a review of the Ray-Ban Meta Wayfarers, right?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, this is another 1,000 view video, and then all of a sudden 300,000 views a week later. But it's because people were looking for it, and I just didn't realize. And there's like a lot of the bigger creators at the time weren't doing videos on that thing, so there was an audience for it, but just no one had tapped into it. So I think there is
it's a good thinking strategy to like think about it before posting it.
Right.
Especially in that space.
Which I just recently started writing scripts for my videos, bro, and I've been doing it. Yeah, I'm almost 10 years into it, at least on the tech channel, and it's life changing. My videos are better. I just got an editor recently. It's easier for him to edit. Like everything is better, but it takes longer. But it's like before, dude, I'd sit down in front of, I'm sure I don't know if you do this. Your videos look very professional and clean.
I script them. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay,
yeah.
that's probably why you're
a lot. It's probably not as detailed as a long form video, but there's talking points. It's very, for me, it's cutting out the stuff I constantly say where I'm like, all right, now right here we have the box. It's like instead of doing that, it's just the box has this on it. So it's very like different for me, like cutting out the extra words. But, yeah, I mean, you get briefs on shoes and stuff like that, talking points.
Man, I should have talked to you like a year ago, man. Like, what the heck? Because, like, I just, knowing sneaker YouTubers throughout the years, and just, like, knowing, like, it's so, like, you just sit down for 30 minutes and you just talk about a shoe, and then you cut it up in a way that you think sounds fine. And that's worked, obviously, in the past, but, like, there's a lot of what you were saying, like, a lot of the same, a lot of repetition, a lot of, like, just garbage stuff that doesn't need to be in there. And it's, like, it just makes things so much better when you script it.
I think I've ruined myself for long form, and that's part of it where I know that I can put the review in a minute and a half.
Right. I know, yeah.
The filler time, I can't go backwards. And so it's like, I know that I don't need to talk about this for 8 to 10 minutes.
Right.
Because, like, the only way I could see myself doing more long form is it's a pickup video with 10 pairs of shoes.
Totally.
Where I can basically just banter about them. But it's like, I know that I don't need the extra filler, the extra, like, I'm like backwards on it.
Totally.
It's tough.
But I think what you have, and what I think that you've been able to instill in yourself is like the Mr. Beast style, where it's like people only want to watch what's interesting. And that's why throughout his videos, he has like there's always something new happening every like minute or so. Because you've been able to tell a very compelling story within a minute. Like if you were to do a long form video with something like a 10 sneaker thing, then it's like 10 compelling stories all at once. And the potential for, I think, virality and also viewership is so much higher than me sitting down, like talking about the same Air Jordan 1 for 20 minutes, which I do all the time. And it
works. People want to hear your opinion.
They do, and I don't know why, but they do. And actually, speaking of things about sneakers, or speaking of sneakers, I've got some pairs to show you. Now, you did already take a little bit of a glance.
Quick peek.
But I've got 2 pairs. I want to show you and get your opinions, because obviously you're a sneaker expert. So let's start off with which one should I show them first?
The Unions.
The Unions, okay. So this is obviously the Air Jordan 1 Union, Chicago Shadows, dropping in August. I want to get your, not initial, because you've already had some initial thoughts.
Yep.
Your thoughts on them.
I mean, I will give my initial thoughts.
Okay.
It's different than I thought.
Okay.
First of all, the toe box leather is insane.
Right.
That was the first thing that stood out.
Okay. Insane as in like soft?
Very nice.
Okay.
This is like the best textured leather, tumbled leather, whatever you want to call it.
Nice.
I think you can have. So I really like that. I love the raw finishing on the panels.
Right.
And it's not painted where it's artificial. It's actually like that. Mm-hmm. And then the one thing I noticed too is the tongue tag. It's paper. It's very like the chocolate milk Dunk Mids.
Yes.
Had that, and it was like
the social status ones.
Yep.
I love those.
And that's what this is. And I haven't seen that anywhere. I've seen a ton of photos of them. I've not seen anyone highlight that because that's very unique and it's not to the originals.
Right. Right.
Otherwise, yeah, it's basically the same as the originals. It's just like, I tell Seth this, other Seth.
Yeah, of course.
I'll just have to refer to him as other Seth. I tell other Seth this, where they look fake because I've seen the originals so many times that it's like, it looks like one of those fake Temu mock-ups where it's like, we did the same thing, but it's a shadow in Chicago. So it's like I'm so tuned in to like what the originals look like that it's gonna take a while to like sink in. But
Colorway wise, do you prefer these to the original, or do you prefer the originals more? If you were to get them all three at once, right, and you had to pick rank your favorites with the Storm Blues, the Black Toes, and the Chicagos, how would they rank for you?
That's tough. I mean, objectively, these might be the best.
Oh wow, okay.
Because if you wear like cargo pants,
right? Yep.
They basically are Chicago's,
yeah.
But like really nice Chicago,
right?
And then shorts, summer like high socks, APTHCRY socks.
Hey, let's go.
APTHCRY.com. Like you get the split look, which looks cool. Right. So it's like, I don't know. I like the Storm Blues would probably be third.
Okay.
And then the what's the other colorway?
The Black Toes.
That would probably be a toss up.
Right, because it's so similar
these and
to
those.
This. Yeah. It really, because it's the neutral grays on top,
Mm-hmm.
and then the black, it's the neutral grays on top, because the Storm Blues are bread and Storm Blues. Yeah, that's neutral grays and then Black Toes.
Yeah. I like the gray up top. But
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, they're very nice. I definitely need a pair. Though, what about the wovens? Do you like those?
I actually do. I actually really like
I do
those.
too.
I
love
those.
them.
Yeah, and it's crazy the hype. But I totally understand why they flopped. Like I totally get it, and that's fine. I think that they were trying a little bit. I don't know if they're trying too hard. They were too experimental, and the sneaker market wants stuff like this. And at the time, this was experimental, but it just hit right. So I don't know, man. I do think I prefer this style, but the woven was not bad.
When do these come out? Do we have a date?
They were supposed to come out in February, but it looks like they were pushed back to August, possibly.
And what's the early resell?
Yeah. What's up?
How much did you pay?
I paid $1,000 for them.
What do you think it'll sit at, guys?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna say 450
after drop.
Sense. Yeah,
I don't think
that's not bad. That's a good.
It could be lower.
It really could be. I'm so interested to see what happens with these, because the other ones right now, the other ones are like 8-9, but they were 1,600, 2,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I just bought trophy rooms for $500.
Wait, the talls, the highs,
the
talls.
Yep, the talls.
I do this for you.
the highs. Yeah, the prices on those have come down a ton too.
Really?
I found a used pair that I was icing up over the last 4 days, and
oh my gosh,
really good condition, $500.
That's crazy.
Which I never thought I'd get them for that, but it's like you can find those for $500. Like, the market on ones are so low right now, so it's like if you're a collector, like go buy them.
Well, here's a question for you, because I got another pair of ones.
Yes.
A pair that also is crazy hype. This pair I also bought for $1,000. Well, I bought a couple pairs actually, but but the pair that I wear I bought for $1,000. Not this pair. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you think of this pair? Being possibly, now I know we talked before the podcast, but it's possible that it might not be 10,000 pairs. It might be more. But even if it is more, it's probably still gonna be pretty limited.
Yeah, we don't know the number on it.
Yeah.
I like them. I like them a lot. I'm a big 85 retro fan. I have a couple of pairs of original 85s. I've just always, like, the Air movie was super awesome.
Totally.
Like, I'm just a big, like, with my content, the historical side of stuff,
right.
I think is really important, and it's cool to me to learn about it, because I didn't grow up knowing everything and living through the drops and stuff like that.
Right.
So these are like the shoe. Like, I've watched the Michael Jordan documentary probably 5 times.
That's
like
awesome.
through like, so this is awesome. Like, this is the shoe. I'm a bigger Chicago fan versus Breads. I think they did a pretty good job with it. I've seen a lot of people that are really into the 85 community talking about the shape. I mean, in person, the only thing I would say is it's not high enough. This little
fair
chunk
enough.
up top is just not
enough.
tall enough to my actual 85s that I have.
Yep.
Otherwise, I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, I really like the stiff leather because it holds up.
Totally.
You were talking about how they don't even crease really.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
I like these a lot. I definitely need to get a pair for sure.
Nice. Do you think so? You said your size? Are you 11?
I'm 11.
11. Do you think 11 is gonna be tougher to get than a size 9?
Probably. Yeah, just because 9.5s are like sample sizes. It's kind of the most common size because it kind of goes with women sizing too on the higher end. So
yes,
I would say so. I mean, 11's not high enough where it's like
super
when you
hard
get to 12 and 13, it's like it's kind of tricky. But yeah, these are pretty cool. I like these a lot.
Nice. So what shoes are you looking forward to for the rest of the year? Do you have any big grails coming out?
White Cement 4s, definitely.
Okay.
That one I've been trying to find a pair of 2016s like in good condition.
Oh yeah.
Since 2016.
Yeah, that's tough.
And like I got into the game like 2018, early 2019, so it was like 3-4 years. Like they were $500 for a brand new pair, and didn't have the capital at that time. It's like just kind of aged out. And so then it's like, all right, now it's 2022. It's like pair's getting pretty old. Like, so I've been waiting for this one to come out so I can buy like 3 pairs and wear them into the ground. So that one's the big one.
That's awesome.
The metallic 5s, I really loved the 3M rendition that they did with the edging on it where it glows. I love that.
Yep.
The House Studio A6 Intimidations. I'm a big House Studio fan. I think that they're doing really cool things.
Nice.
That one I'm excited for. Galaxy foam posits.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Will be kind of fun.
That would be cool. Yeah. I'm stoked on this.
I think that's about it. What about you guys?
Well, why don't you start off, Oz? Do you have any ones you're particularly into?
These 2 for sure.
Okay. Oh, you're feeling these?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I always wanted the other unions, but
fair enough.
the prices.
Fair enough.
Here.
Yep. Gotcha.
What else? I don't know if I know what else is coming out. I don't.
Undefeated 4s, white cement
Undefeated
4s.
4s will be a cool one.
That would be crazy.
I feel bad for everyone who has a pair.
Yeah, I know. That sucks.
That's $30K shoe.
Yeah, I know. That just ruins everything for
Yeah.
them. But I mean, at the end of the day, and the thing is, you only buy that kind of shoe to have a $30K shoe. I feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, unless you got it originally for retail. And, like, I'm not mad at that. Like, I would do, if I had, an extra $30K to sit around.
How would you guys feel if you had a pair?
I think that
Would
the
you be
people
happy or
that needed to move them probably sold them already.
That's true. That's a
honestly.
good point. That's a good
I know
point.
when news like that comes out, it's like the market moves pretty quick and people are like, all right, we're going to discount this before it hits. And a lot of the pairs, like the original Wu-Tang Dunks, like they still go for a bunch because they're still like sample friends and family pairs. But I don't really get the bringing back grails as I don't get that whole thing.
It does kind of ruin it. I actually, funny story, I was watching one of Blaze and Derry's shorts yesterday, and he was talking about the KD Nerfs and how they go for like $150 now when they were going for like $2,000. Yeah, yesterday's video.
I was editing that yesterday
awesome.
morning. Yeah, that's me, man. That's
awesome.
Yeah, did good.
Yeah, that was so interesting to see how that all works, like how they're bringing it back, and like no one, because it's a completely different time now. People were wearing back in 2010. So I'm not gonna lie, I got 10 years on you in terms of age. So you know,
that was a lot of the comments were like, man, like us that we were buying them back then, we're 30 now. It was like the top comment on TikTok.
Exactly.
I was like, yeah, fair enough. Like I was born in 2000, so I was like middle school basketball, and I just like couldn't afford those, so it was like they were the cool shoe, but it was like all the varsity players were wearing those, and it was like that was it.
Yep, and that's the thing. Like that was when I was in college when those were dropping, like the Galaxy foam posits, the Nike Air, and that's when I really got heavy into sneakers because I was going to college with Osman. Osman was big into sneakers, and we sort of played off each other a little bit. But like that was sort of, for me, that was like the golden years of like sneaker collecting, because that's when you had Nike Air Yeezy 2s coming out. Like we were actually, I think, were we hanging out, or was you, me, and or was it Eric? It doesn't matter. So we were, regardless, there was one Saturday morning, or maybe it was a Friday, I don't remember what day it was, but we all of a sudden get this notification, I think it was on Twitter, that the Nike Air Yeezy 2 Red Octobers had randomly dropped. This was after Kanye had left Nike, and we're like, what? So we all run to the computer, and I think did you have one in your cart and you couldn't check it out? Like it's stories like that, which still happens today, but like for a shoe that's now so legendary, it's like, it's crazy
to look back on that. Yeah, it's like, damn, that was crazy.
I know. And then also too, like you can't wear Kobe 9 Elite Highs like for lifestyle wear anymore. You just can't.
No, I got the Christmases.
Oh yeah.
I think I returned them. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
yeah, I mean you can't wear them.
They don't resell. They like, unless you're wearing them on the court, which
a
lot of people wear lows and stuff now.
Exactly.
Like, it's just. Yeah, it's a different game. No jeans and KDs anymore, man.
Yeah, true. That was wild. If I had been able to get KDs, I would have definitely worn jeans and KDs. I can tell you that much.
Yeah,
100%.
it was baller. Yeah,
but I could not get them.
What about you for the upcoming shoes this year?
For the upcoming shoes, this was number one for me. I hate to say sneaker of the year, beginning of the year, but like I think the story behind it. Well, first of all, it's mainly because it's my favorite sneaker of all time, so it's always going to be number one for me. But in terms of like the story, the fact it's the 40th anniversary, the rollout that they've been doing, even though it's stupid limited, I really like the storytelling that they're doing with it. This is number one for me, but now I have a couple pairs. So looking to the future, this pair is not my size. It's size 10. So I would probably like to grab a pair of my size. Galaxy foam posits. Really, a lot of the New Balance and ASICS stuff that comes out I always love, but they just don't tell us what's coming out in advance, so it's kind of a
Gotta be
bummer.
plugged in.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, you already are. You know about the house, dude. I don't know anything.
What are they? The Lorenz OG New Balances that just came out in London. If anyone has a size 11, hit me up. 150 pairs only. That was like one
that's crazy. Yeah.
I don't know if you know about those at all, but it was a very cool pair. So it's like stuff like that I really like, but it's like very hard to find.
Right.
So that's like the hunt stuff. Like 2 years to find a pair.
Right.
And when you find it, it's like the best thing ever.
That's one of those things too that you're not going to get seeded either because it's so limited.
No.
It's already going to be
No.
like, yeah, that's. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit. Not to, I won't, go too into depth because obviously it's not something that we probably should be talking about fully on podcasts. But like we talked about it a little bit before, how like brands have sort of stopped seeding me and they're working with you. I mean, the pair that you're wearing right now, was that from Adidas or did you buy that?
I bought these.
Did you? Nice.
I did.
I,
Yep.
I really do like them a lot. I really like them
the
a lot.
Adidas Packer Intimidations I got on.
That's awesome. So, okay, so how do you handle a situation? Because this is something that back in the day I would deal with sometimes, but I didn't really know how to handle it. How do you handle a situation when you get a seeded pair that you don't like?
I'm objective with all my reviews. I mean, you can watch them, and that's something I'm objective. I talk about the facts. I talk about what material. I mean, I that's kind of how my reviews have always been.
Right.
It's an opinion. Now, with that being said, if I really like something, I'm going to tell you.
Right.
And if I really don't like something, I'm going to lay it up as if I could change one thing, or if I had to switch something up, or something I guess I'm not really a fan. Like, you don't have to just be like, oh, this sucks. Like, this is terrible. The leather is terrible. Like, shape's all off. Like, I'm objective with it. So it's awesome. Like, I don't think that there's anything that I hate. Like, Croc Fortnite collab. Like, dumb but fun. Like,
and the views are probably crazy on that. Like I've seen Steve Nada who did a couple Crocs videos that like blew up.
Yes, he's wild. Mr. Croc. So yeah, I mean, there's stuff that like there's an audience for everything. Like somebody's buying everything, whether I like it or not.
Right.
And so if I can be objective about it and be like, wow, this is a little higher on the retail price versus something else. This is a collab. It's like bringing in Fortnite, or I don't know. I just keep it that way.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't get me in trouble.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a pro with that. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily. I mean, people know what I like. I'm a big Anthony Edwards fans. I have all the AE1s. Like I love those. It's very obvious. But
they are fire. I mean, they're fire sneakers. He killed it with those.
Yeah, they did. Yep. Yeah. So that stuff, it's very obvious. But I'm trying to think of one that like wasn't a huge fan of. Like. Some of like the obscure basketball shoes, like the 361 Sports.
Yep.
Like it's a Chinese brand. They have some big names like Jokic, reigning MVP, is probably going to win it again this year. Like
probably.
The shoes, they pump out colorways.
Right.
But the thing that I really like is it's really good material, and the retail price is like $90 to $100. So it's like a really compelling product. And not necessarily Skechers basketball shoes, the same thing where it's like they might not be the best looking or you might not like them, but they have some really good Michelin outsoles or something that's very interesting about them that people are buying them. Like there's NBA players wearing them. Like their money and contract and injuries are on the line. Like it's not a bad product. So
Totally.
I mean, everything I can see the light in. I can see objectively with it. So I mean, that's kind of what I do. And I've built a lot of really cool relationships with brands, which that was a big goal for last year. So. It's been cool.
That's sick. Dude, that's so sick. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. I made the mistake multiple times throughout the years of like I'd get a pair, like this crazy package from like a brand, like say Adidas or Nike or whatever. And I just at the time like I was just like, what do I do in this situation? And sometimes I'd be like, I would try and be objective about it, but there were times where it's like, and I shouldn't be admitting this, but it's not something I do anymore.
Well, that's why people trust you. Honestly, you're one of the few that's very authentic, whether you like it or not.
Well, let me just talk about for a second my non-authenticity.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the one time...
This led you to where you are now.
This led me to where, exactly. The one time where I got a pair of shoes that I specifically remember not liking and being like... And I was genuinely trying to skirt around saying I just outright don't like it, but I should have said I outright don't like it. That's what's gotten me. It's the Adidas D-Rups from like 2017 or 2018. It was like a shoe that had like a Spider-Man netting all over the top of it, and it came in this sick box that you'd like scan with your phone, and this 3D image of it would pop up on your phone. It's like this cool virtual like AR thing. And in the video, like I did the whole thing. I was like, this is super cool the way it comes up, and I just never said in the video I don't like these because they were trash, garbage shoe, and I should have at least said. I don't like these, but I probably said something like, the colorway is fine or something like that, and I just wish I had been more open about it. Like that one gets me a lot, and it's really not a huge deal, but I mean it's enough to where I've thought about it. Like
so
for years
what's
after.
like, why does that still stay in your mind?
Because I wish I could be able to say in the 9 or 10 years that I've been doing sneaker content that there's never been a situation where I've been there are a lot of creators that I really like who have stood on like this one opinion or business the entire time. Like there are people who have always like, for example, it's Teddy. Are you familiar with him from a little bit? He was like the Boost God. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he was a huge fan of Adidas back in the day, and he always, no matter what, said what he thought, whether he loved the shoe, hated the shoe. And he's changed. Like he doesn't even, I don't think he even really cares about sneakers anymore, but that was always his thing. He'd be like open and honest about it. Doesn't matter if the brand's sending him stuff or not. I wish I had taken that more, and I try and do that now. Like I said, I don't really get seated anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I just basically, it happens sometimes, but I basically buy a lot of the sneakers. And same thing with tech. And that sort of freed me up to just be, like, without even feeling like I have to say anything. But I wish I had been like that from the beginning, because that would have made my life, I might have gotten seated less, but I could have been like, listen, from the beginning, I've been straight up 100.
Build it on that, yeah.
Exactly, which is not, and not saying that I haven't been, but I wish I could have been fully, like, on board being able to.
You got to come out with, like, a new tagline every time in the videos.
Exactly.
Like, now that you're thinking about it, you could be like, just so you guys know, I'm buying these. These are like, this is my on it, like something. Like,
well, so in my reviews now, I say where I bought them from and I say how much I bought them for, because
that's
it's for two reasons. One, to say like, listen, I'm actually spending the money on it, and two, in the off chance, and I don't think it's happened, but who knows? In the off chance I do get a fake pair of sneakers, it's like, okay, well, I bought this pair of sneakers from GOAT or whoever, and it went through authentication. I'm not knowingly buying fake sneakers, mm-hmm. and also say if I buy it from, and this, I wouldn't try and throw anyone under the bus, but it's like maybe if I'm buying from some random person on Instagram, if I got a fake pair of sneakers from them, it's like, okay, maybe try and avoid that person. You know what I mean? So
have you reviewed a pair that's fake?
I don't think so. I did recently find out that a pair of Travis's that I bought for myself were fake. I bought them off Whatnot from a seller who I thought I trust. I'm not gonna say who it was. A seller I thought, it's no one that you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's not.
I probably do know him, but
okay. So I bought a pair of Travis's. I had already reviewed the shoe months ago that I bought off GOAT. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, dang, I really want this pair of shoes. I had a bunch of Whatnot credit, and so I bought it for the full retail, like $550. And then I was telling you earlier that I'm doing a video where I'm reviewing all like GOAT, eBay, StockX, stuff like that. And so I took them all to a sneaker store, and I brought my own personal pair, and we laid them all out on the table, and every pair looked fine, and then my pair was like a completely different color. I'm like, what? This is crazy. Like, why does it look like this? And the sneaker guy's like, yeah, I mean, we see that a lot. Like, that's a fake pair. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it had been like months since I had bought it, so I'm not going to like reach out to the guy and be like,
well, listen. I know Whatnot is very... I don't know how long ago this was, but they have a very strict counterfeit policy.
Really?
We have meetings with them weekly and stuff, and that's a big push this year is
that's good.
Protecting the buyers. Because
that's great.
I mean, that's what eBay did. It used to be
Wild West.
You go to eBay and it was the shady side, but you might get a really good deal. They might get a fake pair of shoes.
Yep.
Now it's like everything is buyer first.
That's great. I love that. And that's something like without an authentication center, I think is really important. Yeah,
we've seen fake pretty much broke hats on Whatnot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, people were faking pretty much broke hats. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And we reached out to what they've done a pretty good job of not shutting them down, but like getting them to stop selling them.
Interesting.
But if you guys ever see anyone selling fake APTHCRY on Whatnot, let us know and we'll reach out and figure it out.
Do you guys have like a place on your website or anything that says this is who we work with?
No, but we should. That's not a bad idea.
I don't know how many people you're like having sell product, or if a store has it, but like you like, or our podcast or whatever. Yeah, here's our partner.
That's actually a really good idea.
So people do know.
But if we're not following them on Instagram, it's probably not.
True. Yeah. But it's I mean, we've got it all trademarked. Like APTHCRY pretty much broke. Like everything's trademarked. So it's one of those things that like we have legal. Yeah. Like we can do something about it.
You guys have pretty much broke.
We do. Yeah.
That's
I know, for all apparel. So don't even try and put it on a shirt. Yeah, it's great. Cool. It's sick. It's so sick. And that was actually, we did our logo first, or our name first, and then we did that like immediately after. We're like, dang, we gotta get this locked down because it's such a fire. It was Osman's idea too. I didn't believe him. One day he told me, he's like, yo, we should make this as a hat. I'm like, whatever. And then a month later,
he didn't say whatever. He said, no, I don't like that.
I didn't like it. And then a month later, he comes and he's like, yo, everyone's been complimenting on these. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I wore the hat and I got a bunch of compliments. I'm like, this is actually a cool idea. We should do this.
Interesting. That's cool that you have that.
Yeah, man, definitely. Well, yo, so tell me a little bit more before we round things off. What is your next? We've already talked about sort of where you want to be, but like, what's the next move for the podcast?
Growing it. So Seth and I, it's just us two. Like our content, we try to keep it as high quality as possible, very professional. We're only working with brands that we actually like. Very indicative to
I appreciate it.
APTHCRY.com.
I just got that. I just got that.
But I think for us, it's adding more brands to that list is a big goal for this year, and stuff that we actually like, because when you're doing a podcast, it's very obvious when you don't like something.
Totally.
And if you're just doing an ad read, and I listen to like Pardon My Take or like whatever, where they're talking about, I don't know, Snapple or some random company that they're just reading an ad read, and it's like, it doesn't hit. And then you skip through it and it's like, it doesn't do anything, but like, I know that they have a Chevy sponsorship because they all have Chevy trucks and they love them, and it's like it's very obvious. And then every time I like you hear, like, you know, they're with them, and I think a big part of it is working with brands long term,
right? Totally. Because
then people, and you know this too, it's like if you're associated with a brand long term, like people know you with that brand essentially. So I think building that, and then a big push for me is one of the things I handle with the podcast is short form clips.
Right.
Pushing that. I mean, we've built a really good organic audience with very minimal clips.
Right.
And another thing too is not a lot of guests. I mean, we've had maybe 4 guests in the 100 episodes, which a lot of podcasts are only guests.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So you're able to. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So the shorts, it's just that's 3 or 4 short forms a day for me. So it's like whenever I can get to it, it's going up. So that's a focus for sure this year.
That's awesome.
And then I think just in person too, we were talking with Bima last night about how like all of us content creators and sneaker creators around the country like don't connect in person enough.
I know.
And we need to do that more at Complex Con or sneaker cons, or maybe it's not. Everyone just comes to Atlanta for a weekend or whatever, and like there's community and like what's working for you, what's working for us. Here's like my advice. Like I think that's really important because there's plenty to go around. Everyone can do awesome. So it's like being in person and doing in-person podcasts is another goal for us because we do remote. So
that's awesome, man. That's sick.
What's the goal for you guys in the podcast?
It's a Seth question.
Is this the second episode?
This is the second episode. So we're going to launch 3 in the beginning. Do you have any tips for podcasts starting out?
Constant. Okay. The big one is the consistency.
Okay.
Don't do too much at the start. We started doing 3 episodes a week, and then we did 2, and then we did 1, and then we had a week off, and then we did 2, and every Friday an episode goes up. And so I think that's a big one.
That's awesome.
Is consistency and not missing anything. Christmas, nothing. Like just 1 a week. Like that's the thing. It's an hour or whatever.
Right.
And then coming up with your own thing. Like we do first 20 to 25 minutes. We just chat about what's going on in our content journeys, our new pickups.
That's dope.
Sneaker news, and then
that's dope.
That's about it. So I think for you guys, it's just like, what's like, are you going to show off your recent like upcoming sneaker reviews or upcoming product that you guys, I see a wall full of awesome ideas that you guys are definitely in for some treats. So, I mean, like stuff like showing, like, I don't know, but coming up with that thing that it's like, I know that they do like Complex Sneakers, like their podcast is they have huge guests.
Right.
Like that's kind of their thing. And whether you go into the business side with this podcast or creator side or sneaker side or building a business side or you have entrepreneurs on, or finding the thing would be my advice. And then just staying constant with it was the big one with us, that once you get that down, it's like then people can rely on it coming out.
That's awesome, man. Yo, I really appreciate that. That's
Make it past, I think it's, what's the statistic? There's one statistic that's like 85% of podcasts die before episode 20 or something.
That's not surprising at all.
There's
I'm
surprised 20 is the number.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I gotta look it up, but it's like 85 or 95% of podcasts like don't make it to that. And so that was a goal for us, was like make it past this, and then like we can do whatever. So that like
that's awesome.
Actually continue it, because I think it's going to be an interesting lesson for sure.
Awesome. Well, yo, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Make sure to check out Charley. All his links are in the description below. I'll also put them up on screen. And if you're listening on, why don't you shout out what the platforms that you're on, just for the listeners,
and any other things you want to say?
Yes.
Yeah. Winona Kicks, all platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I don't think I'm missing anything. Threads.
Nice. Yeah.
Not very active there, but and then the Beyond Kicks podcast. We're live everywhere you can listen to podcasts, and socials as well.
That's great.
Thank you for having me,
man. Great. Cool. This is the best first guest we've ever had, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
In the running for best guest ever, realistically. Yeah. So appreciate you being here.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm never coming back. One and done. I'm the best.
Guys, if you want a chance to win those Bose headphones, make sure to subscribe and comment below. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.